Rice last year had, I think, what anybody would call a pretty disappointing.
It wasn't a disaster, but
it wasn't
a disappointment.
Right. It was disappointing. And they, they missed a bowl, and they just kind of plodded along. It always looked like they were on the verge of getting that big win, and it just never came. And it was a disappointing year for David Bailiff and company. I think what really, obviously, they lose 4 straight down the stretch, but the ones that really got a stick in their craw is that they lose, basically, so they go, let's see, so they go, 5-7, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they go 5-7, right? But the ones that have really got a stick in their craw is losing at UTEP and losing at UTSA. Those were
sure how those happened.
Losing by a combined 13 points in those 2 games. Those are the ones that I've got to be keeping David Bailiff up at night, because you get one more win, and things are kept. Now, part of this is that the defense was trash. The defense was really not good. 35.5 points a game allowed is not going to do it. But Rice, to me, represents the biggest mystery heading into 2016. For one thing, if you're looking at the positives, I think you and I are both still very high on David Bailiff.
Oh, yeah.
We both really like Coach Bailiff. We like what he brings to the table. We think he's a good fit for Rice. A program, I think that he's done good things there, and he's helped to kind of build up their profile a little bit.
And I love some of the guys that they're recruiting. Some of the players they bring in are big. I have big soft spots for.
Yeah, I think that this is a guy who is probably the right fit for the Owls right now. I don't think there's any problems there. I don't think anybody, look, if they go 2-8 or 2-10 this year, then that seat's getting a lot hotter. Let's be real about this. This is a results-based business, and I think people are willing to look at 5-7 and say, all right, that's an aberration. Let's move on and see what we can do next year. But you look at them, and I think that in a lot of ways they are losing their identity, right? I think for so long, Dreyfus Jackson was the face of the franchise, right? Say what you want about Jordan Taylor, the wide receiver, but I think in a lot of ways, he was there. Dreyfus Jackson, just being the quarterback and being the kind of dynamic guy that he was. Yeah. He was the headliner on that offense. Now he's gone. And now they're looking for a new face of the franchise, so to speak. And they've got a few different places they can go. Tyler Stelling, it looks like, I think by all accounts, is going to be the guy to take over, but they have no shortage of options there. Nick German still on campus as well. But then you look, and there's a lot of things on the offensive line, for example, that make you say, okay, this thing could take a step forward. They could bring back 3 other 5 offensive linemen. Losing Andrew Roy, the center, is going to be a tough one, but I think you can replace a guy like that. I think they've got a lot of different weapons on the outside. Zach Wright is back. Parker Smith, who had a breakout freshman year. James Maiden is a big-time recruit that they landed. And then, of course, the running game. The running game has always been a big part of what they want to do, and they're bringing back a nice stable of running backs, right? Okay, Derek Dillard, Samuel Stewart. They're bringing back a lot of interesting pieces offensively. So if you want to look at the offense and say, all right, I really think this offense is going to be taking a significant step forward, right, even without Dreyfus Jackson, I think there's an argument to be made for that. I think that this is a guy who... This is a team that they have been building towards and building. You mentioned the recruiting, getting the kind of pieces that fit in well with the Rice system.
Right. I mean, they seem like they're tailor-made players for fitting in at Rice. Right. They're the kind of players that maybe have a little more potential to play above the Conference USA level. But they're ending up at Rice because it's a great academic institution. It's a great fit for them. One player they missed out on that would have been great was Paxton Sagina. He was with them all the way to the end, and Stanford came in and swooped him, and, well, when Stanford comes.
Sure.
But a player like Sam Glazman, right? Great quarterback at Waco Midway, sort of overshadowed by Ben Hicks for a few years before he emerged out of nowhere. He's sort of a late bloomer, but a pro-style quarterback that's really exciting. Seems like a perfect fit at Rice, right? Like he could play above the level you expect at Rice.
The thing that I've always admired about Rice is that, and what David Bailiff has done at Rice, is that it seems like they pick their spots very well.
Yeah.
I think they understand that. Okay, I'm trying to think of who just a really can't miss prospect in the skill position prospect in this class is. Let's go Kennedy Brooks. Okay, the running back Kennedy Brooks out of Mansfield.
Yeah.
Rice probably is not going to get Kennedy Brooks.
Right.
They probably know that.
Yeah.
But they're very good at finding those guys that they are a good fit for and going after them and saying, hey, not only can you get a great education, but we're building something here with the football program. I think that you would be a good part of it. I think they're the way that they sell the offensive kids especially is really good because they're able to say you are a good fit. It's not just like you're really good, we like you.
It's strange.
There are some programs that just go and they look at Ohio State. Ohio State just seems like that's obviously a different level, but they go off and they just be like, you're really good, I want you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they seem to do a really great job of picking out great high school players who don't have wonderful measurables necessarily for the top level programs, but still seem like their ceiling is incredibly high. Right, like a player like Will Phillips from Franklin, who we both really like.
We do.
Is not measurables for the top D1 programs.
Certainly not.
Was a great high school player at a smaller program, and yet you still look at him and go, there is so much more growth for a player like this. And I think that's sort of Rice's sweet spot. They seem to recruit those guys really well. Developing them is another thing, and they've had their successes and they've had their failures. But I think that's part of why they're such a mystery, right? Like, it seems like the kinds of guys that they recruit should be able to create this growth for them year in, year out. So 5 and 7 was really alarming, and you don't know whether the program has slipped and will stay there, or that they'll develop them the way you expect, and this next year will be a complete bounce back. It feels so impossible to know.
Yeah, but then here's the thing: is that we haven't even touched on what was their biggest issue last year. Like the offense. The offense was fine. I don't think anybody would say it was good.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, I don't think
fine.
that's the way that Dreyfus Jackson wanted to go out.
No, I think it was fine. The defense was miserable. The defense was really bad, but they bring back 9 starters on a defense. So it's that age-old question of, is experience good when the experience isn't good? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, does it matter? Because you look up and down, they're going to have those kind of leaders that when you go back to those really solid Rice teams in the past half decade or so, they have those kind of leaders. Alex Lyons at the linebacker spot. I think JT EBay in the secondary can step up and be a big time player. They ran out a very young, basically outside of Zach Espinoza, they ran out a very young secondary, kind of by design.
Yeah.
And now they bring back 9 starters here. Tabari McGaskey, also at the linebacker spot. Destry White's going to be in that secondary. Destry White, of course, was a superstar, I believe, at Mesquite Horn. Derek Brown up front. It's the kind of thing that if the defense had been decent last year, just decent, not great, decent, and you say they're bringing back 9 starters, you'd go, here it comes. They're going to have the big leap this year because that defense was so young last year, and now they're going to be even better. But because they were so bad, because they were a team that really struggled defensively from a total defense perspective, they were 103rd in the nation. That kind of gives you pause, and you go, okay, yes, experience will get them going, but will it get them over the hump enough to make them a Conference USA contender?
So let me pose it to you. Let's go through their schedule.
God, okay.
All right. Okay.
Oh, well, wait. So I got to pick these?
No, I'll read it for you.
Okay, fine.
I'll read it for you, okay?
Go for it.
They open at Western Kentucky.
It's a tough one. Western Kentucky, I think, is going to be pretty good.
Right.
But I will go with a loss.
Yep. Okay. Me too. At
Win.
Win.
Okay.
They host Baylor.
Loss.
Host North Texas.
Win.
All right, so we're at 4-4.
At
Southern Miss. Or 2-2, sorry. At Southern Miss.
I got that as a loss. Southern Miss was pretty good last year, and going
Southern
on
Miss
the road,
is so tough to predict. But I think
going on the road, their variance is so high. But I think that on the road, right now it's hard to predict that Rice being where they were and Southern Miss being where they were, that Rice is going to go on the road and win that game.
Host UTSA.
Probably a win.
But they lost last year.
They did, but they get them at home.
Right. Then Prairie View.
Win.
Okay. At Louisiana Tech. Now, Louisiana Tech loses huge players.
They lost a ton.
But it's a strong program.
Yeah, they lost a ton.
And it's on the road.
I'm probably going to a loss.
A loss. All right. Hosting Florida Atlantic.
Win,
right?
FAU's pretty spare.
Yeah. At Charlotte, you would think
It's a win.
Right?
Charlotte's still getting their feet underneath them as a program.
Hosting UTEP.
Probably their swing game, right? That's probably
right.
the swing game. For now, since they're at home, I'll give them a win.
You give them a win, right?
That's probably the swing game, though.
And then the Paxton Sagina Bowl, they finish at Stanford. Loss. Right.
What's that put them at?
7-5. And you know what?
I think Rice fans would take that.
Rice fans would take that, and you know what
Considering
but again, we're back where we were last year. If they slip in 2 of those, and there are at least 2 or 3 on there that they could slip on, guess what?
Yeah,
5-7 again.
The margin's not great because you look at it. Let's just say right now they're not going to be Baylor or Stanford, right? That's 2 losses off the top.
Right.
At Louisiana Tech, at Western Kentucky are tough conference road game tough conference road games. Probably not going to win those. Southern Miss a bit of a swing game, and UTEP bit of a swing game. So if you split those, then you're sitting there at 7-5, and yeah, but the margin is not great. To me, they're still a big mystery because I could also see them. I could see Southern Miss, tanking and Rice winning that game.
Right.
I could see Louisiana Tech really missing Kenneth Dixon and losing that game.
Yep.
And that could get them as high as 9 wins.
Right.
So it's a tough it's a tough game. It's a really tough team to predict.
And the best part about this is, as much as this is personnel based, this is also a general assessment based on what you've come to understand about a David Bailiff Rice team. Right. What you expect them to be able to handle in this conference relative to themselves. It's just such a mystery.
I know. To me, Rice is the biggest mystery in the state this coming year.